Right. So thank you so much, everybody, for introducing yourselves. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, but lots of pressure here for my friend Ros. Over to you.
Um, can I share my presentation, Joe?
You can.
Speaker, share screen. There we go. Share slideshow. There we go. Can you all see that? Excellent. I can't hear anybody. It's really weird. It's like talking to yourself. It's really odd. Oh, hello. How are you? Right. Because when we did a midweek get together, there were literally four of us. I envisaged there might be four people this morning. So I thought, well, this is an hour's presentation basically, but you know, why change the habit of a lifetime that I'm going to take you through an hour's presentation in 20 minutes? So strap yourselves in. To be honest, there's three main slides that are really important. So I'll spend more time on that. So I've been doing a lot of work about resilience. I mean, obviously as a therapist and coach, you know, anti-fragility or resilience has been something that, you know, you're constantly installing in people. But it's also been very applicable to me. There's been many times in my life, and recently it's also been one of them, when I felt less than resilient. And so I have to remind myself about all the things that make you a lot more resilient. So now how do you do to the next slide? Hang on. Slight technical, oh, there we go. Right, obviously, by being resilient, you know, bounce backable, you know, life is better, isn't it? Because stuff happens and life gets in the way. And, you know, with the best will in the world, we don't all live in caves and sit every day and chant, you know, and we have all those challenges that make life difficult. And particularly, there's literally a collective challenge at the moment with COVID and society and uncertainty and no normals. So that can really sap your energy. And I've definitely felt that. And then that can obviously lead to disease. So I talk a lot, as you know, about me. My book Reset is really about that. And I've been featured a couple of times in Psychology and Practice magazine. I think they find it quite fascinating that somebody who's been so screwed up can be such an effective therapist. But I actually think that the fact I've been so screwed up makes me a really effective therapist. So, you know, I've been there. So energy and focus, or what keeps us good and what saps us, you know, really come in on three different ways. And I'm sure most of you working in this world know that, you know, physically, sensory, and cognitively. Within our brains, we have the RAS, the reticular activating system. So again, I like to say to people, it's like a kind of really great filter. It's if you literally typed into Google something, you know, you get thousands and millions of pieces of information, and our brains would be very capable of doing that, but they literally would crash all the time. So effectively, the brain creates a very effective filter mechanism, or I like to call it the red car syndrome. I'm going to change my car. I think I'll have a red car. What a lovely thing that will be. Hardly anybody's got a red car. I buy a red car. I go out in my car. Oh my God, everybody's got a red car. You know, so it's what we're filtering and it's what we're looking at. I could do a whole talk on that, because ultimately that's where you can get really bad prejudice from, because you grow up and that filter is kind of installed in you. So, you know, if you have a belief that all certain types of people are bad, you could literally be amongst them for a year and you'll only ever see the bad, you won't see the good. So you have to be careful about what you're filtering in and filtering out. So yeah, so the reticular activating system really stops us from overloading, but obviously it's linked back to all of our caveman stuff, so the limbic amygdala. So again, I'm sure a lot of you know this, so I'm not going to spend ages on it, but for some people I present this to, it's like the first time they've heard it, like, oh, didn't know that. And obviously the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome. And so in times of stress, we tend to go into that. I know my parasympathetic system is not good at the moment. I've had a very stressful few weeks. I know that because I get an upset tummy, I get earache, my tinnitus is bad. I'm very tuned into my body, and I know when it's not behaving right, because obviously I'm flooding my body with cortisol because I'm feeling quite stressed. And of course, that really drains you of energy. It's fine when we were running away from a saber-toothed tiger, but maybe not so fine when you're trying to do a day's work. So how do you control it? That's the important thing. How do you become more resilient? Obviously, those kind of 5 ways. And again, I could do a whole half day on just those 5 ways, but we're going to have to whiz by and just give you a couple of golden nuggets. I don't need to tell you guys the cost of stress. And again, it's not the time or place, but I will say publicly between you lot, I think what's going on in COVID is absolutely appalling, because I think people are going to suffer more ill health through stress, through things not being treated like cancer, etc., than maybe the very thing that we're dealing with. But we won't get into that today. But clearly the price that people are paying stress-wise is massive, and I'm seeing it, and I'm sure a lot of you are seeing it in your clients and also in yourselves. So these are the kind of key slides, I think. So I heard a presentation from a psychologist who deals with just really high performance sports people. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because clearly you have to be very resilient, don't you? You have to be very bounce backable if you're a peak athlete. They can't afford to have you sick for very long or off color. So a lot of what they do, clearly, again, many of you will already know this, is obviously change the meaning. And that can be many ways. It can be, I'm an elite athlete, I actually don't like the race itself, but I'm going to visualize myself on the winning podium with that gold medal around my neck. Obviously, of course, visualization, all of those techniques, which as a hypnotherapist I'm very aware of and very capable of doing. Also, they tend to be very good at changing the meaning of it. So again, the body experiences that release of cortisol, and it feels quite the same for whether we're truly fearful, there's a perceived threat, saber-toothed tiger, but in this case somebody just cut me up in traffic, or excitement. People back in the day used to go to Goose Fair and things and go on to roller coasters and frighten the bejeebers out of yourself. You actually get the same adrenaline rush, the same cortisol in your body. So they're very good, these elite athletes, at kind of going, no, that's not fear I'm feeling, that's excitement, or I welcome this. Try and fail more, fail better. Teach kids this. I think if there's one thing you can teach children for resilience, it's really to try and fail. And again, over cocooning and not letting them take risks actually has really detrimental effect. And in fact, studies have shown that people, particularly who go to university, a lot of the students who don't fare so well at university emotionally and psychologically are actually ones who've had pretty easy lives. Actually, they've had quite nice lives up to that point, because they haven't built that muscle, that resilience muscle. Whereas kids like me, who were grocers' daughters in the 60s, and they pulled our shop down and we had rats and all sorts of stuff. We'd been tested more, and so we learned that this too shall pass and we could come back from it. So somebody who's had quite a cocooned and, you know, maybe privileged and lovely life might get to university, and then they get dumped by somebody and they don't get an A in their mock, and their whole world implodes. I mean, I'm making a terrible generalization here, but there are studies that have actually shown this because they've looked at the resilience of students. Also, the West puts ridiculous pressures on us. I mean, oh, I'm a success, i.e. I've got lots of money in the bank and my business is really successful. And again, that enormous stress. Again, I'm not really talking to that group here, because a lot of you, or a lot of us, are following our life's purpose. We're following things that help others. We're following things that fulfill us, you know. And I would uphold Julie. I'm like you, Joe. I watched Julie. I'm like, I want to be in a forest making bread. Why am I doing this? I want to be in a forest with a fire, singing with a lovely dog and baking bread. And what I love about it, Julie, is, you know, you've chosen what you love. You know, I'm sure when you were at school, if you'd had a careers officer and you probably said to them, well, I'd really quite like to stand in a forest baking bread with a dog and singing, they would have probably gone, no, why don't you think about being a secretary, dear? You know, so society would have, you know, is rubbish about trying to make us meet expectations. So there is, again, research has proven some people who literally are genetically more resilient than others. So they have a higher set point, but there are very, very few of them, okay? Like a really small percentage of people have this kind of bounce backableness. They have a higher set point. The vast majority of us learn it through learning and absorbing. Partly you learn, you know, you live what you learn and you learn what you live. So if you come from a family, again, you know, where your mum was like, oh my God, I can't cope and everything, you know, yeah, that will have a really big psychological effect on you, of course, because you learn to catastrophize. You learn that, you know, things are terrible. Whereas actually, if you have very calm parents, you know, like you, Stuart, you're very calm. You know, I can imagine you'd be like, oh, let's just do a tune on the guitar and talk about this. I mean, but it would be brilliant. I mean, and my niece is bringing up the most resilient little human being, my great niece, who's 5. And, you know, and they're both super calm and like they talk about stuff, you know, they're being really conscious parents. So, of course, sadly, most people don't grow up in that way. So, again, that will be your learning and absorbing. And again, the maybe ironically not enough adversity, you know, like a desire to be perfection, to always have pressure on you, and the example I used previously. But here's the thing, yeah, and so this is how it plays out. I deal with these people all the time, very highly successful and competitive people who can run multi-million-pound businesses, have really done well in their careers, often have got lovely houses, even lovely spouses or partners and children who are doing quite well. But oh my God, they're so stressed. And that is because the reason that they got to the top, the reason they're so successful is they do think the buck stops with me. And that was me. There's no safety net. The buck stops with me. I'd lie awake at night. I'm the one who has to spin the plates. If I opt out of this, it will crash and burn for everybody else. The buck stops with me. There's no safety net. And that's really stressful. So this enhanced sense of personal responsibility, catastrophizing, lying awake again, oh my God, what if, you know, this is going to happen, you know, if we don't make the mortgage payment, you know, and for good measure, a lovely visualization of you all being turned out on the street and moving to everything. So again, tend to be, but again, catastrophic thinking, and I know this absolutely for a fact as a hypnotherapist, because I go right in deep into people's psyche, it drives them, really drives them. It's like, if I don't do this, if I don't do everything, all this terrible thing will happen. They're very successful people in terms of society's expectations. And again, all or nothing thinking. So I've either got to be the best, I've got to be big, go big or go home. You know, like, again, you know, I've met people who like have childhood memories that they came home and they would say to their parents things like, oh mummy, you know, I did really well in maths, I don't like maths, I got a B plus, and the mother would just go, next time darling, get an A. You know, I mean, it's just a recipe for stress and unhappiness. So if you add uncertainty, which we've got now, you get the rumination, you get the churn, you get high press. So here we go. Here's the $1 million slide, everybody. What do elite athletes do that elite us don't do? And that is they put recovery time. If you look at the training schedule of any elite athlete, they literally, it's all peaks and troughs. You know, they'll go for massive intense periods, and then they have recovery and rest time. And the trouble is, and you know, that's why lessons at school are 40 minutes long, because that's pretty much as long as, you know, you can concentrate, and then you need a little break, you know. So you have to schedule the peaks and the rests. And I've always anecdotally known that, but it's only recently that I really get that I literally have to set a timer and go, I must have a break. And what we're seeing now, because I'm writing for a HR organization and a redundancy or hub, is people are swapping their commute time for more work. You know, and commuting maybe wasn't always great. I lived in London for 20 years, but it gave you time to be you. You could put your headphones in and read your paper and do whatever, or even if you're in the car, you could listen to a book. No, now people are literally swapping that 2-3 hours of commuting for 2-3 hours of more work because they fear redundancy. So again, just think about what your personal best is. You know, it's like being in a peloton, you know, that's a team. They support each other. Who can you get to support you? Which brings me, oh, I've lost my little cursor. That's not very good. Oh, that works. That's good. So yes, the key is rest. I see I've got 3 minutes left, so I'm going to go really fast. Look, you guys are in this business, so you know lots of ways to get rest or to bring the parasympathetic system down, you know, to kind of quieten the body. So breathing. Look, that could be you, Julie. There's somebody looking all zen in a forest. Breathing is essential. Being present, mindfulness is essential. You know, doing things not distract you. So electronics, set aside if you've got kids to just let them talk to you about what's going on. Cooking, I love cooking. I find it very therapeutic. Then obviously get enough sleep. Again, I could do a whole presentation on sleep because I've been a poor sleeper for many years. And again, that's where I go if I'm stressed. And so I've made it my business to know about sleep. There's 7 ways to better sleep there, which are diffused from 30 years of what I've learned and what other clever people and sleep experts tell you. So again, that's really important. And then the other one I really like is the vagal nerve, which is the nerve that we found is the mind-gut connection. And that really affects the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's the rest and digest kind of area. And there's ways to reset it. You can reset it. And ironically, one of the first ways is to effectively stress the body, which I'll come on to in a moment. So the vagal nerve basically affects every organ in the body, and they all function better or worse whether you've got good, what they call vagal tone. I call it Viva Las Vegas, and I'll tell you why in a second. Because Wim Hof, the Iceman, has been an influence on me. So I start every day with a cold shower. It's horrible. I'm not sure you ever get to a point where you love it, but I get in the shower and I sing very loudly, Viva Las Vegas, because it's so cold. I'm like, oh, Viva Las Vegas. Now I can only stand about a minute. There are people who go in for like 10 minutes. And of course, Wim Hof, he just gets into ice. And I know people who've been on his retreats and they just fill swimming pools or jacuzzis with ice and they all get in. Whatever. I mean, it's obviously really good, but a blast of 1 minute, ideally 2 in a cold shower will do it, because effectively it stresses the body and the body goes into, oh, I'm really stressed physically, but actually it resets the parasympathetic system and the vagal nerve. Another quickie is that we have a negativity bias. We are wired as a species for survival to look for what's wrong. Caveman, oh, lovely mountain. Oh, bad mammoth heading my way. You know, we are wired for what's wrong. And so again, studies have shown, and there's a book that's really good, The Power of Bad, that you literally, for every negative or bad thought you have, you've got to times 4 good. So you literally have to sort that ratio out for yourself, because you do think 4 times as many bad things naturally. And so if you're going to, bring that ratio back, you've got to do that. Again, I'm going to whiz through other ways to be really resilient. Gratitude, massive. Gratitude journals, a gratitude jar. Every time something nice happens, write it on a piece of paper, stick it in a jar. When you're having a really bad day, just get them out and think all those lovely things happened. Have a gratitude journal. I'm actually producing a journal now that I'm going to have for next year, because I'm going to bring all my core philosophies into a journal so that people have it. Again, whole presentation on this about the internal corrections officer, or as one of my clients called it, those bloody voices in the attic. But that horrible little, hey, there you go again, you've screwed up, you idiot, often in the tone of voice of some horrible teacher or whatever. Got one bullet point too many. How imperfect of me. I'm so okay with it. Yeah, what would I dare to dream if anything was nothing in the way, and make it a how free zone. You've met the hows, like I'm in business. So here's me when I was in business. Right, we need to do this. We need to build Rome. And, and they go, how? And I go, I don't care how. You sort that out. I just seen the vision. But you can get too caught up in the how, okay? So just be careful about it. Right, okay, I think we're nearly there. How else do you become bulletproof? Well, here's some people who are really good at it. There's a great parable about the wise man and the journalist. I can share that on the site, which is basically a journalist trying to belittle a wise man because he doesn't agree with his philosophy, and the wise man's not having it. It's about the whole Eleanor Roosevelt, nobody can make me bad unless I give them permission. And I've seen a good one doing the rounds, which is, why would you take criticism from somebody you would never ask advice from? Which I think is pretty good. So here my own philosophy, my 5 F's, and it does bring all of those things into practice. So friends, get your connections going. Family, it might not be your real family, but it's your tribe, because connected people are happy people. Fitness, obviously mind and body. And look, Julie, being in nature has powerful and positive effects. And it's got really great things for kids, including ADHD helps and test scores, etc. So I always get out in nature. I eat really well. Also, a thing I learned about eating recently is it's not about being perfect. It's about having more of the good stuff. So just make sure it's the old 80-20 rule, that 80% of what you're eating is really good. It's organic, it's green, it's everything. Then 20% can be a bit naughty, and you will survive better than if you stress about it too much. And then obviously faith, whatever that means to you. It could be nature, it could be God, but it's about you. It's about your intuition. Again, I'm actually developing a whole course on intuition. So there we go. And again, it starts with you. So it's the old oxygen mask analogy. You cannot, as therapists, as carers, as well-being people, fill everybody else's cup up if you don't start with yourself. So it's good that I'm hearing that people have taken time out. I've taken time out, and we need to do that. And then finance, it's energy. Just let it flow. That's finance. An entire finance presentation in 2 sentences. That's basically what it is. And also, what is wealth? Is it really your bank account, or is it the fact that every day feels like a blessing? There's me, lots of bits of me. And you can download a free worksheet that helps you with all of those 5 F's. If you go to my resources page on my website, there's lots of free things. And it will really help you drill down on what's important to you on those things. And that's it. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Ros before we go? Oh, I like that. Not seen that before.
One. Hi. Yeah, just a very, very quick one there. And it sounds like a very prosaic one. But you mentioned the thing about vitamin D there. on the thing there. That does. I keep hearing about vitamin D.
Yes.
Is that-
So hang on one sec. I've got this one. So I've got a friend called Linda Booth, and she runs a thing called Just for Tummies, and she's got her own probiotic and gut health. She was a colonic hydrotherapist, and genuinely, I would say she's the UK's expert on gut health and everything to do with it. And again, look what's happening now. Oh, COVID, we need vitamin D, we need zinc, we need vitamin C, but I've been taking this, and it's vitamin D3 with K2. Don't ask me what K2 is, but anyway.
No, that's interesting. That my wife is taking that, and she keeps trying to force it on me. So.
Yeah, I've just read so many good things about not just for COVID, but just for general health, particularly as we go into the winter months, and we're not going to get, and even if we do get out in nature, it's maybe going to be very overcast. So
Yeah.
I have recently completely subscribed to that. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, K2 injections. Oh, what's that for then?
No idea. I just know that it's something, certainly when I had my son, the first thing they do, like when they appear almost, is like give them a K2 injection.
Oh, right. Yeah, Julie, here's what I take, and I've
Don't know why.
Yeah, Julie, because I was really quite unwell at the beginning of lockdown. I personally think probably had COVID, and I was unwell for about 3 months. So I take vitamin B12, I take zinc, I take high level vitamin C, I take chelated magnesium because it helps absorb the vitamin C. I take the D3, and is there anything else I take? No, that's more or less it. Occasionally I will these, which are pure Icelandic cod liver oil, just to kind of boost me, particularly as we go into winter, to give me more essential fats. But I'm not a nutritionist, but having had the cancer 16 years ago, I've made it my job for 16 years to really understand nutrition. And yeah, so that's what I take.
Rosalind, there was an amazing webinar that I took part in last week with a sourdough baker called Vanessa Kimball. She's been on Radio 4.
Oh, yeah.
She's very well known, and she's actually got a resident GP at her sourdough school, and they did a webinar about the link between your gut health and your mental health, which I'm sure we're all aware of. But it was fascinating, and she was an actual NHS GP. It was so reassuring because she actually prescribes people vitamins and fermented foods, probiotics. And yeah, I think it was all that stuff that you were saying. So it was really good that that's becoming more the norm.
So here's a plug. I've actually got a new online course that will be coming out in about a month, and it's called 60 plus ways to boost your energy, productivity and focus. And what you've just seen is that much of it, and it's like 65 ways, all researched, all with details, cognitively, physically and everything, plus a hypnotic download and a workbook, and it's only going to be $29.99. What a deal, everybody.
Rosalind, I was just going to say, I also started taking supplements of high dose vitamin C with zinc and vitamin D on a recommendation from a nutritionist, because I've always had struggled with immunity a little bit, always been the person that you get a cold. So with the COVID thing, I kind of thought I must do something about the immunity. So I did do. My husband didn't, and I kept telling him to, and he kept saying, I'm okay, I feel fine. And we both got COVID, actually. And I don't know whether it was that, but I would like to think it played its part, because he was quite poorly with it. Fortunately, he didn't have to have any medical intervention, but he was quite a lot more poorly than me, about 2.5 weeks in bed. Whereas I kind of just, basically didn't really get any symptoms apart from the lack of smell and taste. That was kind of it. So I do like to think that it played its part, and it helped boost my immunity, because I normally would be the person that would have crashed a year ago.
So we started feeling unwell right at the beginning of lockdown. So that would be like, March or whatever. And, my partner's in his, late 60s. I'm in my late 50s. And I immediately reached out to nutritionists and people I really know. And studies were coming out of Wuhan in February, March, showing that they were using high levels of vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc, you know, and then everybody like, oh God, probably the Daily Mail next week will say that some miracle cure's been found that people have known about for like 8 months. But yeah, absolutely. And we both were quite ill, but we, you know, we came through it. We never had to see the doctor. I didn't stop working really. So I'm on the same page as you. I really am. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question then? I mean, I know that there must be some experts in here, but and I know that Holland and Barrett's not got a great reputation. Where's the best place to get this stuff? I'm probably going into town today. I might get some of these vitamins because I don't take anything.
Into Nottingham, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know Nottingham. I know Newark.
Wow.
I would always recommend, you know, an independent health.
Yeah, there is one actually in Notts. Yeah, I'll go and have a look.
You're right. I mean, you know, I don't want to diss Holland and Barrett, but
yeah, they are a bit supermarkety, aren't they?
Well, also the brands they do have some good ones. They have like Folger and some of those other. They do have some good brands, but just make sure they're a really good brand.
Yeah, I take a powder form actually in a drink. I actually only take half a powder a day because I'm not like probably the same size as an average man or whatever. So I kind of think I might be taking too much vitamin C if I take, because I do eat well as well. So I'm probably getting enough vitamin C in my diet, but I just do this as an extra. So I take half the powder. So the powders last me twice as long. So I'm not paying as much. But yeah, I can send you a link to where I get mine if you're interested.
Ros, with the...
Because I don't just have leaky gut. I have the kind of one that goes beyond it, which I can't even remember, because, you know, when I was a child, I was given antibiotics every day in between the age of 18 months and 9 years old, you know. So basically my entire flora and fauna and immune system was completely shot to pieces. So, you know, you name a disease, cancer, dengue fever, you know, glandular fever, I've had it. And so I have to be like super careful because my absorption is really poor. So yeah, I have really made it my life's work to know about how to be well. Yeah.
Ros, the vitamin D that you take, could you say what it's called and where we could get it, please? Because I know.
I don't remember which shop, but it's called Nutri Advance. And it's vitamin D3 with K2, orange flavour. So it actually tastes quite nice. And my friend Linda Booth, and you should check her out on Just for Tummies. There's nothing she doesn't know about the gut, really, nothing. We should have her as a guest speaker, actually. Talks about poo a lot, but apart from that, it's fine. Thank you, everybody. I hope that was helpful.
Thanks,
Ros. That was really good. Thanks.
Good.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we could all talk, we've all got so much to learn about nutrition, haven't we? So, and I think it'd be a good idea if anybody does know anybody who would like to come and speak to us. I think we'd all value that information. So, brilliant. Thank you so much, Ros. That was great. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your week. So Sunday's the first back to the routine, back to where we were. If the country's going backwards, we might as well go backwards as well. So there we go. There's a trend going. So have a lovely week. Really looking forward to seeing you all then. The sun's just about coming out in Lincoln today. So enjoy. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.